Ladies and gentlemen, what is good? I'm your host, Cheats. This is the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast. And again, we are live. This is Tuesday, October 29th. It's about an hour before game four, a very pivotal game four in this historically rated, not historically played, but historically rated World Series between the Dodgers and the Yankees. We're going to talk everything up leading up to the hour, leading up to the game. Let me make sure that we get our Instagram followers on here. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on YouTube. And as always, the Black Baseball Mixtape is brought to you in partnership with Stilo Sports, the Players Alliance, Herencia 21, Numbers Game Scorecards, and Rebellion Harvest Sunflower Seeds. Those last two, Numbers Game Scorecards and Rebellion Harvest Sunflower Seeds, there is a discount code, either BBM or the Black Baseball Mixtape. If you put that code in, you will not only be supporting those wonderful partners of ours, but you will also be directly supporting our podcast. So please make sure you do that. Again, if you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe to the podcast everywhere podcasts are streaming. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Really, really excited about what we have going on. No further ado, we're bringing in the crew. It's Tuesday. My guy, the mayor, Flobito.
What's up, man? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, my brother. How are you doing?
Well, you know what? I was torn the entire week, but I feel pretty good, man.
You feel pretty good now?
I feel pretty good because I know who to root for, right? But at the same time, I realize the Yankees losing is not a bad thing.
It makes you feel good. The Yankees down.
It makes me feel a lot better than last week. Yeah. The Mets got 2 wins, baby. That's all that matters.
So let me ask this: as you go through this whole World Series, you obviously could be the end of this tonight. As you go through the World Series, for someone that was fairly neutral, even though you live in LA, you're from New York, you're fairly neutral. Did you start to gain a rooting interest in the World Series?
Absolutely not. You told me that the Stars are better for the game. I got half of Aaron Judge and half of Jazz Chisholm. But I will say this: if the Dodgers are going to win, why not draw it out, man? Win as quick as possible so we can go home to next year. So,
well, speaking of quick as possible and not drawing it out, let me bring in our resident Dodger expert, April. You're up 3-0. You're wearing the shirt today. You're smiling bright. How are you feeling as your Dodgers are on the break of a clean sweep World Series?
It feels good to be on the winning side of history so far. And I had gone to the store and someone was like, "Are you a Dodgers fan?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "I am too." I'm like, "Let's ride. Go Dodgers. Go Dodgers." We all in this. So I'm hoping we close it out tonight so that I can have, my bragging rights for a full year. Just little things.
Well, if there's someone that knows about winning the World Series, and let's bring in our guy Malik, obviously resident Astros fan, so he's used to the winning. But hey, look, how are we feeling on the brink of what could be the last game of the World Series if it's a clean sweep?
I'm not gonna lie to you, it does hurt less being out of it to see the Dodgers win against the Yankees than seeing the Yankees succeed. Now, I know I picked them to win this World Series because I saw that they had the most black players. They had Aaron Judge. They got Soto.
I remember.
Yes, you remember. But
it's got receipts, y'all.
It's a little sweet. It's a little sweet to just see that, when the big dogs get knocked out of their bracket, they struggle a little bit until they get to the big stage. So.
Can I say this? I had picked the Yankees to win the World Series last week or the week before, but I did have the Dodgers win the World Series back in April, so I never wavered, really.
Did you have the Royals?
I had to beat the Royals. I had the Dodgers. I had Dodgers beat the Royals.
Remembers, not the North. The West remembers.
Yeah. Man, whatever. Only fake Dodger fans out here in LA now.
Let me start. There's so much to get to, especially as we lead up to the game. But you guys started with something that you were going on, so I want to ask 2 questions. And Flobo, remind me, because I want to ask I've got a Brooklyn Dodgers hat on. I want to ask about the Brooklyn question, but I do want to follow up on something we talked about last week. Now, as we've gone through the World Series, 3 games in now, bright lights, the Stars are out, Everything's happening. 2 games in LA, 1 game in the Bronx. As we go through the series, has one of the teams for you emerged as more likable?
Me.
Anybody has one of the teams emerged as more likable? Because that was the question. All of y'all were like, I don't like any of these teams, especially Malik and Flobo.
All of y'all.
No, April, you're Dodgers
you
fan.
people.
You're Dodgers fan. But as we've gone through the narrative of what's happened in these first 3 games, do you find yourself liking one team more than the other?
If you're asking me personally, I'll say both teams are pretty unlikable, but I think Freddie Freeman is a likable carbon offset. It's like you can't hate him. He's out there playing on one leg. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
So if it wasn't for Freddie, I could say nah, but he's cool.
Malik, what do you think? Is one of these teams emerged more likable? As the Freddie Freeman story puts you over the edge?
I think it had to, because before that, we were seeing, 8 more batters till Ohtani. Bets didn't exist. And so I think right now the Dodgers are a little bit more likable than the Yankees just based on their gameplay alone. They're just a little bit more exciting to watch in the World Series. We were asking for excitement. This is like WrestleMania, one of the biggest ones. And right now it's looking like SummerSlam. So
I'm gonna go to April last. I'm gonna go to April last because we already know who she likes, and she will expound on why she likes the players she likes. But I will tell you this: from the 2 kind of powerhouse star teams we had, with 2 powerhouse, just institutions, star players, and so forth. For me personally, obviously, you gotta love the Freddie Freeman story, right?
Yes.
You gotta love what his family's been through this year. Everybody seems to like Freddie. We all talked about that. The fact that he's gotten hot at the right time. Now it has 5 consecutive home runs in the World Series, dating back to his previous World Series appearance. It is a great story. But I will say the other side of this thing that's exciting to me is Tommy Edmonds and Kiki Hernandez have turned out to be guys that on the Yankee side, I will give my boy Jazz some credit, because on defense, Jazz has been doing some really good defensive work at third base. But the Tommy Edmonds thing is mind-blowing to me. We talked about it on the last podcast when we had a bunch of the MLB pros on. The fact that you could go from center field to shortstop. These are not this isn't going from shortstop to second base. This is going from center field to shortstop. Kiki's going from the outfield to left field. To third base. Those are mind-blowing. So I find myself liking the Freddie story, Kiki, Tommy Edmonds story. I do like Jazz's defense at third base. But other than that, I will also say, because Judge has struggled, because Soto is Soto, and I love Soto, but because Soto is Soto does do a lot of face grimacing and things like Verdugo. I don't know if people like Verdugo. There's a lot of where I thought there might be more likable aspects of the Bronx Bombers.
For real.
There's a little bit of
Soto being a villain. Go on.
A little bit of a villainy. Little bit of a rub. If and again, this would be different, I think, if Judge was hitting and Soto was hitting and things were happening. Volpe was having a good story. But since they're not, you kind of just start to notice the little body language. Soto has some real bad body language sometimes. Judge is struggling. The only light there is Jazz at third base. So I'm going to say the Dodgers are way more likable. April, the floor is yours.
Okay. Of course, y'all. Well, before I start, someone told me today that they did not like Aaron Judge. Now, y'all know I'm a Dodgers fan through and through. But to say you don't like Aaron Judge, and their reason was, well, I just think, he just got a little bit too cocky. He's too full of himself. And I'm like, of all people, all athletes.
Stop the cap.
Yeah. Aaron Judge is a vanilla sprinkles of baseball. You can't hate on him.
I was floored. I was like, you might have the wrong person.
Yeah.
Maybe you mixing people up, because it can't be that Aaron Judge. He's one of the most humble, well-respected athletes in the game. So yeah, I had to put a stop to that real quick. I just have to throw that out there. But as far as my team, I love them for multiple reasons. Y'all know my favorite player, Mookie, and so forth. And you already mentioned Tommy Edman, which if y'all have been watching the podcast, I've already talked about Tommy being my X factor. Postseason Kike is just postseason Kike. He's rocking it, and so forth. But I want to shout out Will Smith, who has been calling excellent behind that plate. And I feel like, maybe his bat is not going as well as people would like. So his defense is being overlooked. But that play last night where he tagged Stanton, to me, that was a big shift in the momentum. It was almost like you can feel the air being sucked out of the stadium. So I definitely want to shout out my guy, Will Smith.
Great throw by Teoscar. Teoscar made a great throw.
Yeah, and yes, Teoscar made a great throw. I was getting to him next. And look, y'all, I am like desperate. I am so upset. Like, we need to re-sign him. And I have been screaming for us to re-sign him because he's been consistent the entire season, and not just consistent, clutch. If there's anybody on the team that I know that I can rely on to do something in those moments, it's definitely him. And then finally, our bullpen. Like, they are really dogs. They've given them this nickname, the dogs. But what they've been doing, like, they've been shoving, they've been coming through. They seem to put a sense of fear or maybe a sense of apprehension in other teams. And I love the fact that whenever they get on that mound, they about to stand on business. And it's just something to be able to love and appreciate about them. And then, of course, Dave Roberts, he's like beautifully managed this entire postseason. I don't think y'all realize Gavin Lux has an injury that he's playing through right now. People are playing through injuries. So, this team, it's so many things to be able to love and appreciate. But I wanted to shout out the people that I think aren't really maybe discussed as much.
Oh, no, here's the thing. I think Edmonds is being discussed a lot. I think Kike is being discussed a lot. Hernandez as well. The one person that we talked about that I do think, and I text my good buddy that was watching the game last night. I was like, how can you be an 8-time All-Star, a MVP of a league, and actually be the forgotten man in this World Series? And that's what's happened to Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts is not playing poorly. He's actually playing pretty awesome, especially if you add in the defense and some of the plays that he's made over the last 3 games. He obviously hit an RBI, got an RBI in Game 3. He after struggling in the postseason early on, especially in the playoffs, he's really turned it on.
Yes.
But he is a forgotten guy when it comes to the Dodgers like lineup. Again, Shohei, if you're taking it for what it's worth, Shohei and Judge, outside of that, double off the wall, they put the graphic up last night. They were both like 1 for 9, and they're not really on pace to kill the ball,
right?
But it's been Mookie and Freddie and Teoscar and all the obviously Kike and Tommy. But Malik, how do you overlook what is an 8-time All-Star and league MVP? Am I wrong to think that Mookie Betts is kind of the forgotten man in this series right now?
You're not wrong, but also I think the fact that you're pointing these things out is that he's really just been kind of that quiet leader in the box. We were really dogging on him. Like, I think a lot of fans were dogging on him about his postseason failures for a while. And now he's actually been pretty consistent at the plate as far as putting good at-bats up are concerned, taking his walks, getting on base, making plays on defense. Mookie has just been that same player since he's been in Boston. And so I think that we're just being a lot more appreciative of it. But I think just with all the other players just playing so well, especially with the Freddie story, it's just easy to probably overlook Mookie. But I think a lot of fans of the game that are actually watching every game see what Mookie's doing.
Yeah. I also say that for me, I kind of expect Mookie to do well because of all the great things that you said. And for me, like with Tommy Edman not playing half a season and postseason Kike showing up and Will calling, those things to me are somewhat anomalies or outliers compared to what I have already seen from Mookie. So I think that may be why he's kind of, more of a, Mookie is doing great, but Mookie always do great. That's just who he is.
So he's stifled by his excellence. Before we go further, I got to shout out our guy Darren Lopez on the check-in, regular chef on the check-in, Huey and LA Crawfords. Shout out to Coach Huey out there at LA Crawfords on the check-in. Austin Waits, Shout out to everybody that's joining us on Instagram. If you're joining us on YouTube as well, shout out to you guys. Before we go into what's going to be one of my favorite topics, which is the culture wars of LA and New York, I do want Flobo brought up a point before we went on the air that I want him to expound on, because I am wearing a Brooklyn Dodgers hat. I am not a LA Dodgers fan at all. I'm an Orioles fan, but I'm wearing a Brooklyn Dodgers hat tonight and a Jackie Robinson sweatshirt, and I could feel through the screen the ire that is Flobo in regards to Brooklyn fandom. So look, if you guys have not heard this yet, shout out to our good buddy Clinton Yates over there at ESPN Daily. Clinton Yates had the legend Claire Smith on the ESPN Daily podcast right before the World Series started, and Claire Smith, who is just a legend, kind of went into the history of kind of Brooklyn Dodger fandom and LA Dodger fandom and kind of how all of this kind of came about. But it is 2024. Flobo, you are not buying the legacy of the Brooklyn Dodgers carrying on to LA, right? You're saying this is all BS.
I do that with some caveat. Like if you're doing it from the scope of what Jackie Robinson did, Jackie Robinson was a Brooklyn Dodger. So that, to me, makes complete sense. Facts. No, I mean, you can't argue fact, but what I don't understand is like during the playoffs, like now, because like now half of New York doesn't know who to root for, right? Because the Dodgers eliminated the Mets and the Yankees are our in-city rivals. People have to shoot the team. And the ones who've chosen the Dodgers, not choosing the Dodgers because, oh, it's a good team. I like Shohei. I love the vibe. They say something like, my grandpa was a Brooklyn Dodger fan. I'm like, yo, I bet Paul was a great gentleman. I bet your Meemaw was a nice lady. But they haven't been in Brooklyn for 70 years. Do you think if the Dodgers win tonight, Shohei's going to be like, yo, shots to Ebbets Field. We're coming out back in the 40s. You know what I'm saying? No one did that for Brooklyn. So they don't represent us. Why represent them? You know what I'm saying? I don't understand that. Please someone enlighten me, because that to me makes no sense. You still hold on to a team that's moved. You might as well be a Rockies fan at that point, or a Tampa Bay Rays fan.
Jeez. I don't know. April and Malik, what do you think? Does history matter here for some carryover? Jackie Robinson, Don Newcomb, Roy Campanella fans?
Campanella.
That's a history person. I mean, I'm a history teacher too. I just feel like you can never deny the history portion of exactly who they are. So if we're going back from the beginning, or if we want to acknowledge the beginning to the present day. So I'm totally on par with you wearing your Brooklyn Dodger stuff. Dodger fans, don't be coming in my DMs telling me I'm wrong about what I said. I said what I said. For me, I mean, I think it's totally fine to be able to honor the past with the present.
All right, so I'm wearing Milwaukee Braves from now on.
I've got Milwaukee Braves. I've got Milwaukee. You know me, when it comes to hats, I don't discriminate. So I've got all of the like Cooperstown, old school, Negro League. I got them all hat-wise. Milwaukee Braves was a low-hanging fruit. But what say you, Malik? Is it fair for Dodger fans to say they were Dodger fans way back when?
Not today, but I do have to speak on to like Flobo's sentiment on that for New Yorkers, folks from Brooklyn in particular. But I mean, like as a commemoration to Jackie Robinson, of course, that's where I find it to be the only acceptable case, and so that would be
that's me.
Flobo, you're a New Yorker, so like obviously both the Giants and the Dodgers were in New York. I mean, we all know the history in the sense that New York was like the mecca of baseball with the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Giants all in New York City, stone's throw away from each other, if you will. Obviously, for greener pastures, new stadiums. I think the word on the street that I heard was that the Dodgers didn't want to do it alone, so they got the Giants to come with them and said, look at all this market space and market cap we have. Right. But then the Mets come. You're a Mets fan.
Absolutely.
Did the Mets help me understand the dynamic in New York? Because the Yankee fans are always going to be Yankee fans.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the Dodger and Giants fans, not all of them travel to the West Coast. Were the Mets the saving grace here? Were they able? Did the Mets absorb what was the fans of Ebbets Field and the Polo Grounds?
I mean, more or less, right? At the time, there were still LA Dodger holdouts when the team was founded in '60 and became a team in '62, right? They're going to be Brooklyn Dodger holdouts, but the appeal to the New York Mets was it was made out of spite, right? We're getting to the history of it all. William Shea wanted to make a brand new league and have the Mets play in the Continental League. And MLB appeased them by giving them the National League franchise in New York. So there was a bit of spite ball, to be honest with you. But the Mets have always been down market. I mean, now it's expensive to go to a Mets game because it's New York City. But the appeal for the Mets was always like, look, the Yankees are the class of the sport, but you want to bring a family of four for $15, $20, come on down to Queens. This is why around the stadium was parking lots and chop shops, because you got what you paid for. So it became a down market experience. You know what I mean? More of a community team based on a national brand team. But there's gonna be some guy being like, "Oh man, my great granddad saw the Dodgers in '45." It's like, come on.
Well, look, I will say this: the Dodgers are, to me, it's a whole different entity. I was watching. I went and rewatched the Fernando Venezuela 30 for 30 with my son because I wanted to explain to him who Fernando Venezuela was and what Fernando Mania was. And you start in 2024, you get creative when you're trying to describe things, especially to 9 and 10-year-olds. So my son comes in and was like, "Dad, what's Fernando Mania?" And my best example, I don't know if this is true or 100% accurate, but my best thing I could tell him was, "So Cam, you remember Linsanity?" And he's like, "Yes." He remembers Linsanity because I'm a big Knicks fan. I was like, think about Linsanity for an entire season. That's like the best example. Like all the new fans come in, like all of this stuff, and we watched the documentary, and it was interesting. But the interesting thing about it, while I was watching it, I really started to understand how uniquely LA the Dodgers are. Like the LA Dodgers, to me, they're like when Fernando came in, especially in 1981, and then you start to open up that Latino market in a way. They always wanted to do that. There were obviously a lot of Latinx people there, and they wanted to get them. Like they did that with an idea in the 80s to get that audience. But then, obviously with the Asian audience now, with show, and we'll talk about this, 15.5 million fans tuned in Japan. In Japan
Sorry, Japan.
tuned into game 2. We'll talk about it, but I just thought it was fascinating how LA has carved out this market that is just, I feel like, completely them. And I also feel like I haven't been to the stadium, so I do know there's historical references to obviously Jackie and the family is out there and so forth. But it also feels a lot more devoid of what we're talking about, like people back east wearing Brooklyn stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like it's cherry picked, right? And this is why. Okay, so I don't have the best opinion of Dodger Stadium, but I understand because I'm on that Discord, the Black Baseball Mixtape Discord. I gotta be as cautiously nice about the Dodgers.
They're coming to blows on that Discord right now.
I watch from a distance, like that SpongeBob meme. So they do cherry pick some parts of the history because you can't deny the Trolley Dodgers or the Brooklyn groomsmen that became the Trolley Dodgers that became the Dodgers. But yeah, there really isn't a reverence of we are a New York team. It's kind of like, no, we are very LA. It's time for Dodgers baseball, very 50s throwback post move. And Valenzuela and Fernando Mania, they owe that estate indefinitely because that team was not being adopted because of how they cleared out the communities in Chavez Ravine to build that stadium. And then if you look at the fan base now, it's mostly people in Central America and Mexico. So it is a very unique story for them, and I commend them, and I do hope they win tonight because they got 3 games up. But man, allow me to bah humbug in the corner because my boys aren't in it, and I'm being a little saucy.
Well, speaking of bah humbug, we're gonna. I might as well call this section unpopular opinion because as a fan, a lifelong fan of obviously hip hop culture and hip hop music, my golden era of hip hop is Jay-Z, Nas, Biggie, Pac, Dre. Like that's the age bracket I'm in. So now we've got 2, not just one. We'll talk about it on Sunday. The Ice Cube performance in LA after game 2. Now we have Fat Joe coming out all in the Yankee gear and the Timbs all over home plate and pregame of game 3. I'm going to April because, like I said, I'm calling this unpopular opinions. April, you made it clear that this may not have been your choice of pregame entertainment. What say you about the East Coast West Coast battle? I called it part 2. This time it's Ice Cube, Fat Joe, obviously in friendly dueling performances.
So I will say if I was giving was like an American Idol type thing, or I was voting one person off. Definitely Fat Joe would have to go home. Was not feeling it at all. Like not even the crowd was feeling it. So it was very lackluster to me. I'm like, people, my students don't know who this man is. Like if I bring it up, if I play it in class, I'm like, I know y'all ain't cleaning to this kind of old school music. So
that's an interesting because Fat Joe will fall into an interesting pocket, right? Fat Joe will fall into an interesting pocket where I don't think the young, like your middle school students would know. They would know some of it. They would know some of the hits, but they wouldn't know like Fat Joe's not Jay-Z or Tupac or somebody that you would go back and like know that catalog. But you had to be there. I'm gonna be in. Go ahead. I'm gonna defend Fat Joe, but I'm gonna go to Malik and Bobo as well. Go ahead.
Maybe I should just stop here because I feel like people might cancel BBM for what I'm about to say. But once again, do not come to my DMs telling me I'm wrong. I am not a fan of West Coast rap. So I rocked my head when Ice Cube came on, but all this it was a good day because we won. Okay.
It's a great line. A line of the day.
Sorry. And I normally I keep this a secret, but I feel like I've been kind of prodded to let this out today.
By me?
Yeah, by you.
By you.
I'm pulling the flow mode today.
I use this for a recap.
I do it.
Malik, what do you think? Ice Cube, Fat Joe performances before the World Series. Good move, bad move, tapping in. What do you think?
And so I guess it's just kind of indicative of the series in general. When you do this type of thing, having a rap battle, it's like bringing out your best Pokemon or your best Yu-Gi-Oh card for a moment. Like let me put mine.
Let them cook, Cheese. Let them cook. Let them cook.
Yeah. So I think in this case, New York, they had a lot of people you can choose from, a lot of people that could have taken the bill. But at this case, you could have just picked Ice Spice, to get up there and represent. I feel like
she's from the Bronx.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So I'm saying like it would have. It's within the age bracket of some students and kids who are tuning into new fans. We're trying to bring more fans to the game. But I don't know. I feel like that it's really just indicative of this whole series of how Ice Cube chose a familiar song. And then I think, Fat Joe, another thing, he didn't choose a song that everybody was really rocking with.
You guys are ridiculous.
You guys are ridiculous. You got to choose your best one. And I don't think
you guys are ridiculous and wrong.
But
you guys are ridiculous and wrong. Flobo,
and wrong.
And
no,
wrong.
No.
Flobo, do you have anything to say before?
Malik is correct. April is correct. Here's a problem with this. Here's a problem with this. I know I'm biased because I'm a Mets fan, and sometimes people will say we try too hard with the grimace and OMG. But it's one thing that we do is that we know what's fun and what's silly. You are the New York Yankees. You telling me your culture is excellent. You saw last week, our culture is winning, but y'all didn't win not one game this season. Ice Cube comes out and you have a chance to go younger, a different genre, a different actor. You go to the same time period as Ice Cube with somebody who's less famous than Ice Cube and like, yo, BX stand up. Hey, BX stand up for nothing. That was a mistake. And the Yankees are desperate and out of touch, Chiefs. Don't tell me otherwise. Come on, man.
I think you're all loud. I think you're all loud, and I think you're all wrong.
Oh, come on.
I think you're all loud, and I think
no one asked for Fat Joe. Here's a Fat Joe concert. Here's a Fat Joe song in the car, Chiefs.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you the truth. The truth is the Ice Cube performance before Game 2 was actually very well executed. Like, nearly flawlessly. Starting Ice Cube out from center field, having him walk to the mound, breaks in Today Is a Good Day, which is by any mean a top 50, if not top 25 hip hop song of all time. Of all time. Today's a Good Day is a top, I would say it's a top 25 hip hop song of all time.
Okay.
Period. Like Ice Cube, obviously in LA. Again, iconic. The only other person I think that would be equally or more fitting in that setting for the Dodgers is going to be Snoop because of LA, right? So, and Snoop is another one that came from that same era and obviously turned himself into, we were just joking about this. Snoop all over the Olympics. Snoop is like family friendly Snoop. Cube is still like more family friendly Cube, right? You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. The execution of what Cube did game 2 was as well as you could hope for. Yes. The fact that they called again, let's put in perspective. Not a lot of middle school people are tuning. Like of the 15 million people or the 14 million that's averaging ratings here, Ice Cube fits the demographic more so than April students or my son. I'm just letting you know. It won't. Ice Spice won't gonna do. They won't gonna do that. So
numbers.
So, in defense of Joe Crack, in defense of Fat Joe, I will say of the era and genre we're talking about, and of the fact that you're talking about the Bronx. So New York, unlike LA, you could pick LA and pick anybody in LA and be like, that's LA. When you're in New York and you're in the Bronx, you gotta go, I think, with a Fat Joe who's from the Bronx. Somebody had wrote in the chat, what about Jadakiss? We know Jadakiss is from Yonkers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Somebody said somebody else. Hove did game 2 with Alicia Keys because they did the New York Empire State of Mind song. Right. And the last World Series, which again, first of all, you're probably not going to get Jay-Z. And then second of all, Jay-Z's still Brooklyn, right? So I'm thinking Fat Joe, listen to me now, who has hits, who has New York theme hits, who fits the demo. And yes, like I said, he's not as popular as Cube is popular-wise, but Fat Joe, don't get me wrong, through his podcast and Instagram, Fat Joe's like talk show was like the biggest thing in the pandemic. It was like Versus and yesterday's price is not today's price.
It's a non-issue, man. It doesn't matter. Look, Fat Joe could be hotter than Ice Cube, which he's not. But Fat Joe could be the best rapper on the planet. The fact you did it after LA did theirs makes it make it doesn't make a losing battle.
And here's the thing.
He's even bigger.
I don't know Ice Cube's LA fandom, but the world knows that Fat Joe is a Yankees, Bronx, Knicks guy. Like, we know that.
You down the hill and over to die on, bro. You wasting your time. That was stupid. It was dumb.
I'm just saying, Fat Joe's the right guy. I thought the songs that Fat Joe, like the All the Way Up, those are big hits. They are big hits. New York, like it was Ja Rule's song. It was the New York is a feature on Ja Rule's song. It was Ja Rule, Jadakiss, and Fat Joe.
Yeah.
I think they got the right guy. I think the execution is what did him in. Because it was very clear. One, he picked songs with way too many
features.
No, too many songs with too many cuss words. Like, let's be frank, they had to edit too much out of Fat Joe's songs, and Fat Joe had to change so many lyrics. And when he was changing lyrics, to make it like the Dodgers were the opponents, right? But the fact of the matter is, he couldn't use the original lyrics because they weren't going to work. Like even with today's like Good Day, Ice Cube, there's some stuff in there that you have to change, but you're only doing one verse. You know what I'm saying? And most people kind of could sing along, and you saw Dave Roberts rapping along with the song for Cube. You know it. Like the Fat Joe stuff, you had to change so much. It was the sound system per se, not the system in the stadium, but definitely for television. It was definitely a voiceover link, track that was just the execution let Fat Joe down. Is all I'm saying. Fat Joe, I'm still riding with you.
I defended it, but the sound sucked.
Even Verdugo was rocking with Cube, and I will say from a social media perspective, more people definitely rock with Cube.
Yeah, no, it
than
was
they did with
executed much
Fat Joe.
better.
However, I was on a snack break when Fat Joe decided to do his set. I'm just saying, it's
look,
not
shout out to Dodger Stadium. Shout out to Chavez Ravine. They executed it. They executed it much better. I will say though, I think they picked two of the right guys to do if they're gonna do it. They picked the two right guys to do it from LA and the BX to represent. I think both of them had the ability to really make it. I will say this. Most people don't know this now, especially baseball fans that are like, I mean, people may know. But when they debuted the All the Way Up remix with Jay-Z on it, so Fat Joe, All the Way Up was one of the number one hip hop songs in the country when it came out. They debuted the remix with Jay-Z on it. They debuted the song in Yankee Stadium. That's how big and connected Fat Joe is to the Yankees.
That's fine.
So it's like, I think they picked the wrong thing. Last thing on this, Flobo, because you're shaking your head. I'm not convincing you.
No, you're not.
I think, look, that whole song has gone exactly how this series is going, if you ask me.
So I can't.
How it's gone.
There hasn't been one.
Up versus the Yankees. Song and game. That's just what it is.
Let me ask you: Are you thinking that MLB should not have done it at all? Like they should have just eliminated the hip hop element from this series?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I disagree. I think that you could have, right? So, but Ice Cube has a certain. No, what I'm saying, Ice Cube has a certain kind of aura about it, man. Look, I don't know how far in advance these people were booked, so that part I don't know. I'm not trying to. If Fat Joe was booked in like March and Ice Cube was available this weekend, then this looks bad. But Ice Cube brought out a hit that we all sing. Yo, we get paid. We say today is a good day. I ain't never said it all the way up in like 15 years, Cheats. And you're supposed to be in New York. You're supposed to be the Yankees. You're the birthplace.
All the way up's not that old.
You're supposed to be most of his hits are like 10, 15 years. Anyway, you're supposed to be in New York City. You're Yankee Stadium. You're told me you're the class of the entire league. You bring out Fat Joe, no one brings up hip hop battles top 5 about attitude or culture ever. And I'm supposed to be like, well, you know. It's
all right. Last word on this. We know how April feels. Malik, should MLB have done this? I still think it's a yes. I think no matter what happens, I think they picked the right people. I love the nod to culture, but Malik, do you think they should have canned this one?
Oh, it's just hard to say because it's New York. It's New York here. If this was like, Detroit in the World Series, then they probably would have brought somebody up. But this is New York. This is supposed to be the hip hop capital. And then you got LA, which is one of the other satellites out there. So I'm just saying, like, I feel like if MLB wants to really do it, they need to do like what Flobo was saying. You got to get a team that's actually, good at executing these types of events that can connect with the community and actually drive home the point. And actually give, homage to hip hop. And not saying that Fat Joe just did such a terrible job or anything. I'm just saying that MLB can't be so tone deaf to like miss out on certain things. So I feel like they just might have to put in the community a little bit more, maybe hire some people that are local, whatever they did.
Local. There's no more local than Fat Joe in the Bronx. Let me.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'm not saying about Fat Joe, but maybe whoever executed this entire, set. So
last thing on this, if it's not the World Series, Flobo, and it's one of those City Connect scissor reels that we've covered all season.
Yeah,
all season, and all of the City Connect scissor reels had hip hop artists. You wrote an article about the same formula that they use.
Yeah,
would you have been okay with Fat Joe doing the New York Yankees scissor reel?
I would say the KRS One say no. That's what I would say. If you're talking about hip hop, classic hip hop. If you want to go that far back, you might as well. I'm just saying.
All right. Well, look. If you want to hear more about this, check out this week's Black Kids Play Baseball comic strip. Little Cece and Roberto Clemente Garcia go into East versus West. And they do have some hip hop conversation in there in the comic strip that is Black Kids Play Baseball. So, all right, we're leading up. We're about 20 minutes away from this to going off. April, you tell me, is tonight the last night?
I hope so. Um, one, I hope so. Now, let me say this: I hope so because I'm tired of the stress that this is bringing me. However, on the other hand, like y'all, we about to be done with baseball season. Like it's about to be over for a little minute. So I'm thinking of both sides, but I think that the Dodgers have them by in a very specific place, and the Yankees' body language last night was a little different towards the end of the game. So I'm gonna go and say yes. Maybe they'll spark something tonight. And let me also add, have y'all seen that the ticket prices have dropped significantly since the 3-0 thing has occurred?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have not. I'm gonna
It's like a
look.
half price. It's like
It
half
was like,
price.
yeah, it was like $650 for certain that was normally like $1,500 or so.
It's all
Malik,
cheats fault.
what say you? Is tonight the night? Is the World Series over tonight?
The World Series is over tonight. That's my yes, but I just got to pick up on what April just said. The body language of the Yankees. Did y'all see that back and forth that Jazz was having with the ump the other night?
Yes.
Literally last night. And
Yes.
I did. I wasn't saying that. I'm not going to say that he was wrong for going. I mean, just feeling that way, but just I could just feel that frustration just watching it. I feel like the cameraman just was working that night, showing his his grimaces, his body language, and so I think that it ends tonight really just because I'm not sure if there's a voice left in the Yankees lineup that's going to be able to just give them that Jason Hayward speech. Not saying that they don't have leaders in there. I'm not saying they don't have Stanton and Rizzo and Judge himself, even though he's not performing the way that everyone wants him to, he's still a leader. But I feel like just looking at them, they feel like it's looking like they've given up. And so it's looking like 2012 for me, unfortunately. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a sweep.
Let me just before I go to you, Flibbo. Let me just. You guys are 100% right. It was over game 3 before I looked before the World Series started. Game 3, Yankee Stadium to get into general admission was just under $1,100. It was just under 1,100. Right now, you could go right now, get a general admission ticket off of a secondary market for $460. That's including fees, not including taxes. So you probably bump that up to like 480. But the ticket prices have dipped dramatically as we go into what could be the final game. Flobo, do you think tonight is the final game?
It is, man. And so before the series started, I had the Yankees win this one because when the Dodgers faced the Mets, which is ironic that both the Mets and the Padres are a bigger challenge to Los Angeles. I said, look, there was a lot of people that the Dodgers left on base, and the Yankees won't have that problem. The World Series happened, and they had that problem. Everyone had holes in there. I have never seen a collapse like this in years. I'm not sure that's a discussion about the Yankees or the American League or the American League Central or what necessarily, but you told me, Cheats, oh man, this is going to be the best World Series ever, stars versus stars. And it just looks like a spring training game in the Bronx with base running errors and people throwing out the strike zone. Like, I don't know who gets fired after this, but if that's supposed to be the class of the league and we're showing this worldwide, something has to change. So, yes, I do think it's the last game tonight. LA Dodgers, even though it doesn't make me happy, let a lot of people happy in Los Angeles and abroad, they're going to win this in 4.
Yeah, no, Flubber, you're exactly right in the sense that the games on the field have not been particularly. I mean, game 1 was awesome walk-off victory.
Yes.
Like it was a real, it was a real battle, right? I don't know if in retrospect that just kind of deflate, like they're just losing game 1, the way you lose game 1. I don't know if that just really was already the knockout blow for the Yankees. It may have been. And when we look back on it, it may have been. But what we're seeing is like game 1, kind of a Freddie Freeman hits the walk-off home run and the guys are like, they're deflated. The Yankees are like deflated, but there's not like, we can't get these guys. Then game 2 comes and it's still, what was it, 4-2 game? It's still a pretty close game. And it's like, all right, now we got to go back to New York. And even the Yankee fans before game 3, there are guys that, going to Yankee Stadium. I saw it on Instagram. I saw it on X hours early before game 3. We're waiting. We're going to give Judge standing ovations in the first inning. It was a lot of things. As Malik said, by the end of that game last night, by the end of game 3, it seemed like all of the helium was sucked out of the balloon. Mm-hmm. Like, it just seemed like, now and again, I'm not saying that if they come out bullpen game against the Dodgers, if they come out and just start mashing and have one of those 10-1, 10-0 games, there's going to be some light. But it just seemed like at the end of game 3 last night, they were defeated. Their fans were defeated. You should see some of the rhetoric that was going on Instagram and TikTok. Like, it wasn't like it wasn't. There was no more optimism. It was like, they better not embarrass us. Like getting swept. It went from like, we have a shot to win to, let's just not get swept. Don't embarrass us. Yeah. And like, we don't know what's going on with Aaron Judge and all that. And I have to wonder. All of this. Now, we talked about pressure, and we all agree that the Yankees had more pressure to win the World Series than the Dodgers. But now, just going into game 4, I feel like the pressure has to weigh on the Yankees kind of like a blanket. Like just kind of weighing them down. And they're going to need something early in this game to break through the pressure, because the more it gets later in the game, I don't think they have, like, the heroics are going to be few and far between, I think. So I'm with you guys. I think it kind of ends tonight. But then we all know if it ends tonight, the silly season starts. And I have no idea if the Yankees get swept, and like in the fashion that these games are played out, the way that Flobo described, Malik, do you think like heads roll somehow? Like, do you think, again, you're in the World Series, so it's not like you need to revamp everything. But if you get swept in the World Series, Malik, what do you think's gonna happen as we go into what has to be a pretty chaotic offseason for the Yankees?
I have a very, I don't know if it's a hot take, but it's something that I feel like Yankees fans might have to come after me for. But I feel like this is all coming to a head because Yankees fans, they really, if you're doing well as a player like Judge this whole season, you get praise. And if you are doing poorly, it's a matter, of course, for them to, talk bad about you. So I feel like it's also been a matter, of course, maybe for their front offices. If you're not doing well, what have you done for me lately? And in the case of Boone, with this all just coming to a head, I think that this actually might be his swan song. Like, this might be the end for Boone because of just how this World Series has gone, some of the decisions that are made. I've always been the one that would be on the side of a manager who is having a good regular season, but we've seen managers get let go before. They might need a new voice, but I wouldn't like to see him go, but I think that might happen. I don't think Cashman's going anywhere, but certainly the firing of Boone that happens would tell a lot about Cashman as well. So I'm not sure, but it may be really the manager. You know how they always take the fall.
Here's what I would say. Even if they get swept, I don't think they do it. I don't think they can do it. I think Boone comes back if he wants to come back. Obviously, Cashman's not going anywhere. I don't know, because we talked about both of these managers. April, you mentioned it as well. If the Dodgers didn't make the World Series, they were probably coming after our boy Dave, because it seems like they're always coming after Dave Roberts. They're always coming after Aaron Boone. I mean, again, if they get swept tonight, you're going to hear Yankee fans talking about Clay Holmes as the closer too long during the regular season. You're going to hear about all kinds of things, right? Do you think, April, even if, I guess, getting swept is one thing, but even losing in the World Series, do you think a World Series loss is the end for Aaron Boone?
I think going back to game 1, a lot of people are still questioning him taking Garrett Cole off that mound, because I'm going to be honest with y'all. When he took Cole off that mound, I cheered. I was like, thank God they got this man off that mound, because I believe that our lineup could match better with that bullpen, because Garrett Cole was shoving in that game. He was at about 88 pitches. So even my dad was like, you hold your pitchers back for these moments. What are we doing? And now, one of my concerns for the Yankees, and one of the reasons why I do believe this game may end tonight, is okay, so what happens if Luis Gil doesn't have a good game and you got to go to your bullpen again? You've been using your arms quite a bit. Your guys haven't been able to go far into the games, but even if they have, you still don't have to. Nobody's going 7-8 innings like they typically do. So that just opens the door for a team like the Dodgers, who takes advantage of that particular moment. So for me, do I think Boone is on the hot seat? Absolutely. Do I think the Yankees pulled the plug? I don't know. I think that is the part where I think that they want to change, but I'm just not sure how much of a change they're willing to go with.
Yeah. Like, what's the pool? Is it Phil Nevin again? Buck Showalter again? There ain't Joe Girardi again. There ain't nobody around, really.
Billy Martin ain't walking through that door, Flubbo.
That's my
Billy
other
Martin ain't walking through that door.
Where do you go? Like, who do you put in that particular spot? Because the Yankees are not, and this is no offense to
Joe Torre's still alive.
Joe Torre.
Joe Torre.
You got to think about, who do you put to fit the model of exactly who that team is as well, and the kind of players that you have in that clubhouse. But let me also say, I'm going to keep this short. I'm sorry, y'all.
Yeah.
I talked to my dad today, and I told him I think that the Dodgers also have been battle tested a little bit more than the Yankees. And I think that that is one of the things that has carried them through this World Series. I think that San Diego series definitely pushed them over the edge. I also think that the Dodgers playing for the National League West till pretty much the very end. Typically, we have captured, the NL West about, 2-3 weeks before, so they can kind of back off a little bit. That didn't happen this year. So it was like they were in constant mode, like, we got to win, we got to win, we got to win. It didn't end. And even the players talked about how they went to management and were like, we want to do things differently this year. And we're seeing it all play out differently. For the Yankees, and again, no disrespect to the teams that they've played, but they did seem to have what people have said was an easier route. And we're seeing that them not being as battle tested, that look of defeat and so forth, is that what is playing a role in this between them, especially when we talk about how the number one teams don't particularly fare well in the postseason?
I can speak on that one because the American League had almost no parity, right? The AL East had Baltimore's collapse. AL Central had the non-start for Chicago and the Twins collapse. And you look at the Dodgers, I can argue right now that the Padres, the Mets, and even the Phillies couldn't defeat this Yankee squad right now, head-to-head, lineup. And that says a lot about the AL right now. But the question I have is, do people give the Yankees that grace? Or is it because it's the Yankees? This is like the Twins in the World Series. Do we give them that grace, or do we say, no, you're the Yankees. Your job is to win 4 games. You didn't do that.
Yeah, no, I don't think they get grace. Do they get grace and do they deserve grace are two different questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
They probably deserve more grace than they're going to get, but they're not going to get grace in the Bronx. You don't go to the World Series to lose
and not swept.
Right. And I think the funny thing about this fan base is this particular Yankee fan base was very lukewarm, if you will, I think, on this entire Yankees team until they got to, you could see the momentum building towards the end of the season when they pulled away from the Orioles, whether they were winning or the Orioles were losing, whatever. But they pulled away from the Orioles. They get the AL East. They start getting the momentum. They really started getting the momentum at the end of the regular season, but they get the momentum through the playoffs, and now they're here now, right? So now they're here now, and I don't think, because again, we're talking about the Yankees, so people aren't even caring about other teams. they don't know how good the Dodgers are per se. You know what I mean? They don't know the things that April's talking about and the Dodgers going through. You know, all the things that they went through on their side of the country and bracket and so forth. They just know the Yankees are in the World Series, and they're starting. You know, I'm seeing 1996 Jeffrey Mayer highlights. I'm seeing Jeter. I'm seeing Mariano. I'm seeing
Bernie Williams.
I'm seeing Bernie Williams and CC and Joe Torre. I'm seeing all of this, and I think the Yankees are supposed to win because this is what the Yankees do. And now they get out on the field, and you know they're getting beat. These are not games that I don't think. I will say this: the Yankees are not hitting, and if they were hitting, it would be a whole different thing. But again, what if? They're still not getting. They're not getting dropped, right? These are games that are still, like we said, it was walk off, bottom of the 10th, game 1, 4-2, game 2. Last night's score was another really close, close score, and it wouldn't have taken much. And again, we're doing all of this without, a lot of production from Soto, Judge. If we got that level of hitting, if they put anybody on the backfield, I think you would start to see something different. But long-winded answer to say, Yankees are not going to get any grief. I mean, they're not going to get any grace. They're going to get a lot of grief. They're not going to get any grace. And I do think that, it's going to be Aaron Boone deciding if he wants to go through this gauntlet again and again and again and again. I think he will. I think I do believe him when he says, managing the Yankees is the best job of all time for him. So I think he comes back. I would be very surprised if they change it up, even if they lose tonight. But the criticism is going to be like merciless. They're going to get criticized, as all Yankees teams do, that don't win the World Series. Like, you know what I mean? This team just happened to get closer. But I'm really interested to say too, and I know we're running up on time, but I'm really interested to kind of we'll do it another time. Explore that kind of battle tested. Explore that. Oh, did we have a weaker draw? Like, they play the teams that were in front of them. They're all Major League Baseball teams. They're all Major League Baseball teams in the playoffs. Obviously, San Diego had a little bit more edge in regards to wanting to play the Dodgers. So there's a lot of that there. It's an interesting thing. Really quick before we get out of here and change the subject, and I guess the answer to this is yes. You guys might know more than me. Does Jason Hayward get a ring if they win tonight?
I believe so.
I think so, right?
Yeah, yes. He should, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Shout out Jason Hayward, man.
I mean, the team's discretion at this point, but I think they should.
Right, I think it's team's discretion, right?
Yeah.
And somebody broke down the bonuses. Somebody broke down like the World Series bonuses. I don't know if it was an article I read in the Atlantic, but so they were saying obviously for the handful of veterans that make big contracts on these two teams, the World Series bonus money isn't that big of a deal per se. If you're obviously, Garrett Cole or Juan Soto's contract or something like that. But for a lot of these guys that are still like an Anthony Volpe, who's still under team control, like this is like a double paycheck by the time they're finished, because they pool all of the playoff like revenue together, right? And like everybody in the organization gets like basically gets this playoff bonus once you stop playing. So like when the Yankees and Dodgers stop playing, they will have playoff bonus money from the wild card or divisional series rounds all the way to the World Series round. And it like last year for the Rangers and Diamondbacks, they were saying, I think it's like $500,000 or something.
It was $500,000. Yeah.
And it'll go higher. So
after only the first 4 games, basically. So the players got to cut the first 4 games revenue. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. All right. Well, look, we are coming up.
I actually have a number: 506,000 for the Rangers last year.
Nothing to for guys that aren't making nearly that much, especially if you're on a entry team controlled contract before arbitration, which a lot of these guys are still.
Right.
It's a nothing to sneeze at. So,
all right, get paid too.
What's that?
Like some of those guys in the offices, they get big bonuses in their whole.
They all get everybody throughout the organization is paid. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are wrapping up what could be what could be the last live Black Baseball Mixtape podcast of the season. I mean, I'm sure we'll go back live again
We'll have
after
to
the
do
season's over.
a post one.
Yeah, this could be the last live Black Baseball Mixtape podcast of the season. So we're not done. Baseball may be coming to an end. We're not going to be coming to an end. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Every podcast is streaming. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube page as well. There'll be more things there. If you love baseball like we love baseball and you want to get rowdy in the Discord, sometimes I have to step away from the Discord. But if you want to get rowdy in the Discord, they'll be in there tonight. Send me a DM, ask for the link. Or ask any of us for the link. We'll send you the link. You can join our absolutely free Black Baseball Mixtape group chat on Discord. As always, the mixtape is brought to you in partnership with Stilo Sports. Shout out to Stilo. Stilo Sports, the Players Alliance, Horentia 21, Numbers Game Scorecards, and Rebellion Harvest Sunflower Seeds. Make sure you follow all of our partners. Man, we're going to close this thing out. We're going to the Bronx. I don't know who's performing today, Flobo. I don't know who's performing tonight.
Ashanti just sang the national anthem.
What'd you say?
Ashanti just sang the national anthem.
Ashanti sung that. Well, Leslie Odom sung it last night, right?
He did.
Yeah. See, there you go. Malik, there you go. Ice Spice, national anthem. Game 5. Hey, y'all. Hey, enjoy the game.
Students will know him. They'll know Leslie Odom because they love Hamilton. So
there you go. Well, look, that's a whole different podcast. Flobo, you and I can talk about Hamilton, the Hamilton effect.
Yeah, Miranda, opening pitch.